Yo, Casually Sheepy here. Today we're going to be looking at a build to defeat Placidusax, and this is going to be at level 125 since Placidusax is a fairly late game boss, and we'll be running this on a dexterity build. Now we'll be boosting our dexterity a bit with the Imp Head Longtongue Helm, as well as Millicent's Prosthesis. These are going to add a total of 7 points to our dexterity, and then we also have our Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Shard of Alexander, and Millicent's Prosthesis. Millicent's Prosthesis and the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia are going to boost our AR as we land successive attacks. So the goal of this with the combination of these three talismans is going to be to go for a number of crouch attacks which come out very, very quickly and have very solid range, especially on this weapon. And then once we've boosted our AR with a couple consecutive attacks, we can go for an Ash of War like the Unsheath, which is going to give a lot of poise damage to this boss and will oftentimes stance break it. So you don't have to run power stance katanas. You could run something like power stance pikes or something. That's actually going to be slightly more optimal because this boss is more susceptible to pierce damage than slash damage, so that's a good option there. But mostly you just want to be running a setup that has low recovery time after your attack. So when your attack comes out, you want to be able to roll very quickly afterwards, and that will probably save you from taking quite a bit of damage when you've delivered an attack and you just need to get away. So keeping an eye on your ability to deliver this damage, and then also your stamina management is going to be quite important when facing this boss. But that's enough about the build. Let's go ahead and jump into the actual gameplay. Alright, so first thing you'll notice is that I spawn in right at the feet of Placidusax. If you have the Sight of Grace for Placidusax, you'll definitely want to use it. In some cases, this will be in your map. However, more likely than not, you'll have to reach Placidusax on your own each time. So at the end of the video, there will be a section that just kind of walks you through how to get to this boss fight. But as you can see pretty early on, we're mostly just waiting for this lightning to strike, and after the lightning strikes, we go in for our attack. And this is why it's useful to have weapons with low recovery, because you can really maximize the amount of time you're delivering damage and roll away from these quicker attacks. Now, Placidusax is going for their Dragon Breath, so we're going to run towards the tail the entire time because the Dragon Breath is coming out on the dragon's left side, and we just want to be up close and personal to the tail most of the time. Now, I recommend keeping your eye on the heads if you're not going to play locked on, which I prefer not to for this boss. Obviously, we got hit by a bit of Dragon Breath there, which was unfortunate, but we are able to poise break our opponent here with a number of jumping attacks, crouching attacks, and Unsheath. So Unsheath is going to be very strong when going for poise breaks, and we would have preferred to get our crit with the Misericord Dagger, but we didn't have time, so we just go for a jumping attack on the head, and landing a jumping attack on the head is going to do quite a bit of damage because the head takes more damage than the rest of the body. So I recommend for this phase of the fight to kind of stay back. Placidusax is going to be either flying around or just turning into mist periodically, and it can be hard to judge when to roll and when not to. You also may have noticed that I went for a little bit of passive regen with that Bestial Vitality and did a talisman swap. That's definitely not necessary. I just wanted to try to complete this boss fight without using any of the Crimson Flasks. So here we go ahead and wait for the lightning to strike again, and just go ahead and land some jumping attacks or crouching attacks. We see that lightning, so we're going to stop going for any attacks. We don't want to be too greedy, and we're really just going for this same game plan on the tail. It's not as damaging as if we were going for the head or something, but the head is quite difficult to reach, and it's generally fairly safe to be attacking the tail as long as you don't get too greedy. At this point, one of the most difficult attacks to dodge is happening, and we are going to want to run as far to the right as possible. The range on the kind of like lasers is quite strong, so really getting off to the right side can be useful for just avoiding it overall. And we go for some more jumping attacks. Placidusax is going to be moving around a little bit more, but again, I recommend just kind of backing up, keeping an eye on things, and not getting too greedy. Once we see that they've gone for an attack, we go for a punish with a jumping attack of our own, and we're going to just try to stay on the side of the tail. We can see that they're going for Dragon Breath, so we're going to back off a bit. You'll get used to the moveset for this boss fairly quickly, I think, And here we get just a couple more hits in. We're really just kind of taking our time. We're not in any sort of rush. This dragon is, you know, very predictable and very reactable as long as you're not getting too greedy. So again, we're going to use the tail to kind of move us off to the right side of the dragon to avoid this dragon breath. We get a bunch of attacks in. We boost our AR with a number of successive attacks, get unsheath, and just one final blow with the Nagakiba is going to be enough. If you made it this far and wouldn't mind considering subscribing, I definitely appreciate it. I plan on doing how-tos and more boss fights in the future. But let's take a quick look at how to actually reach Placidusax. So Placidusax can be a little bit difficult to find. They're going to be in Fair Missoula, so that's going to be in this portion of the map. And the best way to get to them is going to be using the Beside the Great Bridge Site of Grace. And from this Site of Grace, we're going to go ahead and come down this elevator. This is going to take a little while, and there'll be some PvE that we need to avoid in the process. But once we make it down the elevator, we'll just be kind of running past them. We don't really want to engage with them, and especially if you need to run back to this boss, you're going to be, you know, wanting to just get this over with as quick as possible. So we'll see some lightning coming in behind us, but we don't really need to worry about that. And here is going to be the drop-off point. So we want to make sure we don't take fall damage, so we'll just kind of like gently nudge our joystick forward, and then we can be a little bit more aggressive with how we get down there. So just a couple of these platforms to go, and we'll be just kind of smooth sailing here. So this does take a little bit longer than some of the other boss fights to get to. It's kind of a pain, especially if you're doing it over and over again, but once you get down to this final platform, you can see lots of messages kind of guiding your way. You'll be able to lay down in this area. I've already defeated the boss, so I'm not able to do it, but you should get prompted once you're in this spot to go ahead and fight the Dragon Lord Placidusax. On that note, I would like to mention that I am mostly a PvPer, but I am dabbling in some PvE related content. So if you have any thoughts on this or stuff you'd like to see, definitely let me know in the comments.